The greatest last stands in human history. We're not going to talk about my greatest last stand when I was there, miraculously. This was World War II. I was fighting for the right cause. I sat there. One of my friends, he almost died. I said, no, I grabbed the bullet. Got a scar. I don't even know where I'm going with this, y'all. This has been a while since I read this. I was just trying to make up a story. Okay, let's see this anyways.
Don Alejo Garza Tamez was born in July 1933 in
Damn! He was definitely fighting in World War II.
Allende, Nuevo Leon, a town in northern Mexico. Don Alejo's family ran a sawmill, and he was raised learning the trade and slowly expanding his property.
Yo, working these jobs, by the way, has got to be the worst shit ever, bro. Because, like, randomly one day, one of these saws could just fly off and just rip half of your body. Have y'all ever seen those Chinese, like, accident videos? You know what I'm saying? Somebody slips off, like, a conveyor belt or some shit, and they're just, like, ripped in half. What do you even do?
Eventually buying a ranch. But in 2010, Don Alejo's ranch had the misfortune of existing in an area that would be a great checkpoint for the drug trade.
Okay.
Thus drawing the attention of the Los Zetas gang. The Los Zetas are a cartel gang known for, they were not nice people. They were a former Mexican military that was trained.
This man fought the cartel? Bro, nobody makes it out fighting the cartel. You go online talking about, F the cartel is GG's, bro. I don't even want to be around you. I'm not gonna lie if you say that.
To be a task force.
Lions versus the cartel is on. It's not even close.
Against the cartels. But then they realized they could make a lot more money by joining the drug trade, so that leads us to where we are today.
How much do y'all think, like, a drug trader, normal drug trader makes in the cartel? Is it a lot? Because I don't know. I feel like the cartel bosses, like, first off, it's an illegal business. They can, like, basically pay you as little as they want. You're not going to report them to the police or anything. But, like, the people that make money for us, the people at the top.
On the 13th of November, 2010, the cartel approached Don Alejo and asked him very nicely and not at all threateningly to vacate the premises in 24 hours in a real estate deal in which they would pay nothing in exchange for getting to live another day. Honestly, not the worst real estate offer I've heard of. Pretty generous. I would have taken it. But Don Alejo was a principled old man. 77 years old and the absolute pit.
Nah, the thing is about old people, they stubborn as hell, bro. They do not care what type of danger. They're like, bro, I live my whole life living how I do. I'll be damned, bro, if y'all come through here and try to do this shit, bro. And even in the hood and stuff, bro, the old people don't be with it. They're like, yeah, go ahead and try to do something. I wish you would. And then people just leave them alone.
Of humanity. This man hit him with the I'll be waiting, and then the cartel just left and prepared to come back with backup.
Nah.
Don Alejo calmly grabbed his collection of guns and set them up at each window of the house. Within 24 hours, the cartel arrived. Don Alejo told them to leave, and they shot at him. So immediately, he shot the two closest gangsters and the firefight commenced. The cartel began opening fire on Don Alejo's house, shooting at the window that he fired from. Except that he had already moved to another window.
Okay, see, is there a point in doing all that? Damn!
Hey guys, Tom NFG here. You know, only half of you guys are subscribed and even less of you guys have noties on. I hate to be a burden, but, you know, I really appreciate it if you hit that sub button and the little bell next to it, you know. It doesn't take long. I know you can get mixed up in the algorithm and everything. But yeah, also tune into the streams, you know. We have a lot of fun over there, I'm telling you. We have a lot of parties going on over there. Yeah, that's it. Bye. Damn.
Wait, hold up. He might be him.
And shot two more gangsters dead. And as they shifted to that window, he was already gone, moving from window to window. Eventually, the cartel got sick of it and kicked open the door, only to see him there, guns in hand.
Damn!
They were wounded, but not killed. The cartel decided enough was enough, and they started using just grenades on Don Alejo's house. After blowing up a bunch of stuff, they retreated before the military could arrive. And about an hour later, the military did show up, and they found the aftermath of the firefight.
The fact that the military came after, too. Bro, Mexico, they do not give a bro, yo, cartels literally run the whole country. They were like, all right, you know what? Let's let them do their thing. Let's let them throw the grenades and everything, and then we'll come after and act like, you know, we help on some shit. Bro, there could be a moment where he allowed them to stay in the shit, and, like, they just killed him anyways, because, like, they didn't care, and they just took his land.
Over 900 bullets were fired into Don Alejo's house, and multiple just complete craters from grenades were found. Sadly, the man was found dead in his bathroom. Rifles still pointing to the
rest
door
in peace,
as he succumbed to the bullet wounds he received during the firefight. But still, he's an absolute legend. I don't usually cover recent stuff, but this was just too good. Sempronius densis. The
type of chemical name is that?
story of Sempronius densis is less a story about him and more a story about Rome during a period of time in which Rome was at its most Roman, if you get what I mean. It was the years...
Oh, if this is Rome, immediately it's GG's, bro. Like, bro, any Rome soldier was just like him in some way.
69 AD. This wasn't just funny due to the number, but also that Rome decided to go through 4 emperors in a single year. Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian. To begin with, I think it's safe to say that most people probably have a grasp of how Nero was as an emperor. He was psychotic and unhinged. He did some weird stuff involved killing his wife and replacing her with a dude that looked like her.
Well. Not a shocker. Bro, I'm trying to think. What hit Rome where they just all started getting into femboys? You know what I mean? Like, they had the most beautiful women there. And they're like, you know what, bro? We want to go ahead and see some goddamn meat. Some wigs on dudes, bro. We're going to call it a day.
And that's just one of the many, many stories of Nero's unhingedness. I could go through tons of stories about Nero, but all you really need to know is that he was hated by most of Rome by the time he was dethroned. And the first person to take his place was a silly little guy named Galba. Galba's first
like Kim
action
Jong-un's
as the
haircut.
self-proclaimed emperor was to march on Rome to claim his throne, as Galba was nowhere near Rome when Nero died. When Galba reached Rome, he had every soldier in the Roman garrison, unarmed or otherwise, killed, which immediately did not make him very popular. Otho, a governor at the time, who'd sided
Why did you have to kill him, man? Why was everything so violent back then?
with Galba, began to see that he was slowly losing favor by making more and more drastic mistakes. His fall was imminent, and Galba was the most unpopular with the military, while Otho was really popular after befriending many of the Praetorian guards over the years, even going as far as to settle one of their debts with his own money. Eventually, Otho knew his time had come, and so with the help of the Praetorian Guard and some other fed-up Romans, he marched on Rome, causing a riot to break out. Galba and his heir went out into the crowd to try and reassure them and calm them down, and he was surrounded by guards. But when the guards saw Otho and his militia making their way through the crowd, every single one of them abandoned Galba.
Shit, I would have done it too, bro. He was a dickhead anyways.
All except one. Yup, that's right, 7 paragraphs in, and I'm now bringing up Sempronius Densus. He's incredibly uninteresting as a person, but his final act here is just absolutely legendary.
Okay.
Sempronius refused to allow the militia to pass, and he held his ground against the soldiers who all wanted to kill Galba. Sempronius stood alone and defended Galba to the end. Unfortunately, we have no idea how long he fought
This is like defending your boss that's a complete asshole.
for, or if he even killed anyone at all. But goddamn was he brave. He was noted and remembered for this act of valor, despite his idea to sacrifice himself for a pretty mid-emperor, all things considered. Granted, Galba didn't even serve a year. Pretty unfortunate, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay.
Imagine with like presidents and stuff and just like in countries, this is how they dealt with it. It was just like, yeah, you stay in the king's throne. If you don't have enough soldiers, if another person has enough soldiers and they, you know what I'm saying, end your army, that's how you become king.
Okay, this next one is completely insane. We're talking about Vito Bertoldo. So this guy was a soldier in World War II. He was 25 when Pearl Harbor happened, and he decided to join the military despite his poor eyesight disqualifying him from the draft. His eyesight made him unable to be put into combat roles, but after requesting a transfer from his
Getting glasses back then must have fucking sucked, bro. How did they figure out how to make glasses? This is shit that don't even make sense to me at all.
current job as a military police, he was given the role of a cook on the front lines in France. And while at a command post, he was volunteered as a guard. It was there when he noticed a group of Germans approaching off in the distance. And so he ran out into the streets with his gun and set himself up as the sole defensive line. For the next half a day, he stood fighting off the approach by himself while being shot at with everything from pistols to tanks. Yep, that's right. Tanks.
If they were shooting tanks at me at the warfield, nigga, I am running and screaming like a little girl out of there. Who am I fighting for? For a fucking politician? Yeah, hell no.
Plural. As in, for 12 hours, this dude stood out in the open with his guns, fighting off soldiers and multiple tanks who were shelling the area
Same.
around him with 8mm
We all are,
guns.
don't lie.
You know, the guns designed to take down airplanes and other tanks. All those guns firing at a single guy.
And also, bro, this is inefficient for the other military. Like, you're wasting all of this ammo. They could have used this for, like, actual war efforts and more people, but...
Had to hammer home how impressive that is. After the 12 hours passed, Vito ran back inside the command post and took cover behind a table with his machine gun. From there, he fired through a window to hit oncoming enemies. But then one of the tanks shot a shell into the room, which sent him flying. But this dude was hacking or something, because he got back up and picked up his gun as 2 APCs in a tank rolled up on him. He waited for an opening before peeking out the window again and firing as the soldiers jumped out of the APCs and the tank fired at him. It's said that he mowed down 20 combatants here alone. Much later, the command post was finally changed to another building, as the tanks just kept pummeling the area. Vito stayed behind to cover everyone and remained watching their flank for the entire night. The morning after, he swapped over to a different building, the command post of a different battalion, and spent the next 24 hours defending that area. So to recap, he's already been up for 24 hours straight fighting and dodging tanks. You think it's bad?
Nah, but you get like a war high. I feel like if you drink like 5 energy drinks, I feel like that's the type of high or like dopamine rush you get when you're just hearing shooting and bombs going off.
Having to wake up early for school. Imagine how much infinitely more tired you'd be in this guy's shoes. Vito then fought off a tank, 2 heavy artillery guns, and 15 German infantry.
Oh my god.
It's said that the mobile artillery gun, which is more or less a tank, basically stuffed its barrel into the building that Vito was in and fired, sending him to the ground and messing up his allies. Then a team of friendly bazookas set their artillery
They hit his ass with a bazooka? How was bro alive?
truck on fire as Vito stood up and shot the people operating the flaming vehicle. Just such an insane guy. Then someone in charge finally got the bright idea to evacuate at night. But before they could put the plan to work, another assault started with ranged artillery and more tanks. So Vito's going on 48 hours of no sleep, and he begins fighting the attack.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, it's crazy how people fought wars like this. Like, bro, the governments, I think they know, bro, around the world, people are not going to fight wars like this anymore. Because what the fuck are we doing, bro?
Attackers with white phosphorus grenades, which made them stop advancing, because if you know anything about white phosphorus, it's that you don't want to be anywhere near it. So the attacking soldiers made the smart decision to not walk into the white fog of death. So Vito holds the angle with his gun, and a tank shot at his location, sending him flying as it destroys his gun. But Vito still got back up and grabbed a new gun and fought to cover the withdrawal of his comrades again. And finally, after all this happens, he makes his way out, the last one to leave. I'm speechless. Never in my life have I seen someone roll so many consecutive nat 20s.
I need to see him now, or what he looked like after the war and shit, because I hope he got some type of medal of honor.
Like, how did this man do it? I'm not kidding, this guy was absolutely nuts. Alright, these next 2 are probably the most popular, and considering how similar they are, they're going to be together as the epitome of fighting until the very last breath. First up is the Viking of Stamford Bridge. So around 1066, Harald Hardrada of Norway was invading England to take it from the current king, Harold Godwinson. And the most extraordinary battle was in Stamford Bridge, which ironically was not the name of the bridge, but rather the name of the village that they fought in. Anyway, the fight was a losing battle for the Vikings. They retreated across a bridge, and 1 Viking remained, standing upon it wielding a Dane axe. The English tried to fight
I mean, this is pretty easy. You just like threw him off the bridge, right? What else did he do?
him, but every person on the front line was killed by the Viking. Every wave introduced more and more Englishmen fighting on the bridge, but the Viking with the Dane axe just continued to cut them down.
You could probably take out like 5 people in a row with that shit, you know?
40 men at the bridge and 40 men failed. This random Viking was only stopped when an English soldier snuck underneath the bridge and
hit him
stabbed
in the
with a
nuts!
spear, which killed him. That Viking's death
Nah, bro, that's unfair, man. Boo! What are you doing, bro? Come over here like a real man and fight.
led to the invading force being routed and the English won, but their pride was heavily bruised. One guy killing 40 dudes, that's just embarrassing. This battle was especially amazing because it's remembered due to a fight on a bridge, but the village nearby was named Stamford Bridge. The 2 leaders were named Harold and Harold, and the lone Viking is called the Viking of Stamford Bridge, which really does not help with clarity, because it's either Viking of the bridge or the Viking of the town who died on a bridge in Stamford Bridge.
Yo, yeah, I know how lucky we are, because we could have really been born in this era for real and been forced to be one of those fucking Vikings fighting.
But anyway, just something to think about. This whole Viking on the bridge thing is very similar to another story about a monk named Benkei. Benkei was a monk in the late 1180s, serving a samurai named Yoshitsune. There's a whole veritable feast of history between these two, but in Benkei's final moments, much Viking in Stamford 100 years earlier, it took place on a bridge. Yoshitsune was retreating to his castle to commit seppuku, and he needed time. So Benkei bought him that time by guarding the bridge
I've seen this in
as
another video.
hundreds of samurai approached. The story goes that Benkei remained on the
slaughtered
bridge
him.
with his Nagakiba at the ready.
That's what Whitebeard has in One Piece.
Wave after wave of samurai charged against him. Legend has it that he killed 500 samurai before they decided to just shoot Benkei with arrows.
500? Okay, I don't remember that number. Now, these niggas suck. We talk about how trash these soldiers are. I wish they had footage of this happening back then.
Yeah, these old last stands are always really embellished. But anyway, after however many samurai actually died, they decided to be cautious and to shoot arrows at Benkei instead. Benkei remained standing despite being a pincushion of arrows, so the samurai didn't approach anymore. Eventually, after some waiting, they did approach the bridge to see that he had propped himself up on his weapon and was long dead. Which brought Yoshitsune enough time to commit seppuku, so W friend, I guess. This next one's a fun one. We're gonna need to go back over 1,000 years before Benkei and the Viking of Stamford Bridge. Agis III. Agis III was the son of the king of Sparta,
Seppuku.
Archimedes
Seppuku.
III,
There we go.
and he'd witnessed Sparta's decline in both power and social standing. Agis' father left Greece to fight against Macedonia, which was Alexander the Great's kingdom, along with fighting a few other Greek city-states. Archimedes did this after he and Agis fought off the Thebans just a decade earlier in some weird father-son bonding experience in which they tried to regain Sparta's lost land. Anyway, all that aside, but then Archimedes did the dad thing, and he went off on his own to find the illustrious pack of cigarettes, which means he became a mercenary commander, and when he saw the size difference between his army and the Macedonians, he dipped out, saying something like, "You guys got this, I gotta go grab a drink, be right back."
I've done
And
that.
then he just vanished. We find out later that he was killed the same day when he was caught in another battle. Anyway, so Agis had been holding down the house, keeping it tidy for when his dad came back with the cigarettes that he'd promised, but instead he got a knock on the door.
How much were cigarettes back then? It had to be like annoying too, making a cigarette and to sit there and roll it, didn't have no machine.
It was a messenger.
We're too
telling him
privileged.
that his father
yo.
passed
We're too
away in a
privileged.
tragic cigarette-related 4-car pileup, and now he owned the house and had to pay taxes.
They had to pay taxes back then? Bro, was there ever a moment in history where we didn't have to pay taxes? Damn!
I don't think this bit's making any sense. Okay, wait, scratch all of that. Okay, anyway, Agis was king and Archidamus was dead. That's all you need to know. And so Sparta's
Caveman
land was divided
times?
up to its neighbors and enemies. Agis knew that it would take time for Sparta to recover, so he bided his time and waited for Macedonia to drop its guard. He sent out messengers to speak with various Persian military leaders, contractors, and even the king himself, asking for military supplies and asking them to attack Greece. The Persians did not need to be asked twice, and so they did, which marked the beginnings of a new war against Macedonia. 2 years later, Agis and some other Greek kingdoms who were opposed to Macedonian rule declared war against Alexander's kingdom, which is Macedonia. And after a successful battle, Agis moved forward to siege the great city of Megalopolis, which is where Agis made his last
Megalopolis. Must have took them a long time to make that name.
stand. Unfortunately for Agis, the city held against the siege, and a relief army made its way to battle Agis. The battle was lost, and he was wounded. While he and his men were retreating and they were carrying him, he realized he was dead weight, and so he told his men to leave him and retreat faster. Staying behind, unable to stand, he fell on his knees and killed a few of the approaching Macedonians. Eventually, he was killed by a javelin.
Damn.
And like so many other stories of last stands,
We
his
would be
life was
dead?
cut short
Shit,
by
I
a
wouldn't
sneak
be
attack
fighting.
or a thing he couldn't reasonably defend himself from. You'd be surprised how many last stand stories end that way, at least in the ancient world. Okay, now we're talking about Roy Benavidez. So this
hard
man was
last
a
name.
staff sergeant in the Vietnam War, and he has a really cool story. But to keep it simple, this guy was made of tough stuff. He was undercover and he stepped on a landmine, and then he got rescued and sent to a hospital where he would, against doctor's orders, crawl across the ground and try to lift himself up against a wall. And he just did that until he could walk again. Yeah, this guy just began recovery so he could get back to Vietnam. 2 years later,
Yo, they had so much patriotism back then. What the
now in 1968, Roy was in a forward operating base in Loc Ninh. Recently, a 12-man Special Forces recon team was dropped into a jungle west of the Loc Ninh area. They were pinned down and needed extraction, but the helicopters weren't able to land due to the hail of gunfire being laid down on them. And so Roy hears this distress call over the radio, and he saw the helicopters landing at the base to refuel, so he immediately volunteers to go help in a second extraction attempt. The 12-man team was either dead or wounded, and they needed help fast. Keep in mind that Roy was also part of this battle. So Roy got into the helicopter and they flew
And left. That would have been me. I would have completely left.
over. When they got to the 12-man team, the helicopter got
Most
as
of the army was complaining while this guy was praying to go back. Some people were just different.
close as it could, and Roy
Nah,
jumped
nowadays, bro, we got some crash out kids. It's just they're angry. They don't even have to like the U.S. for real. They're just like, I just want to fight somebody.
out and sprinted to the team. While doing so, he took a bullet to his right leg and a bullet hit his
Damn.
helmet. Upon reaching the group of injured soldiers, he proactively took charge and helped to pinpoint where the team should focus their gunfire. He then threw a few smoke
How
grenades
do they also know this happened? Well, probably accounts, witness accounts and stuff for people that survived.
to alert the helicopter of his and the rest of the team's position. He shot some suppressing fire at the enemies while the other guys extracted, and he then searched for and found the dead squad leader's body and classified documents on it, which would not have been good if they fell into enemy hands. As he was carrying the body to safety, he was shot in the abdomen, and a grenade exploded, sending shrapnel into his back. While that was happening, he also saw the helicopter pilot get shot and crash with everyone inside. So immediately he secured the documents and sprinted to the downed helicopter and pulled people out of the wreckage to create a defensive perimeter, entrenching everyone in a safer but unsustainable defensive position. And so while the enemy fired upon the
He literally had like all of the war strategies, bro. Oh my
group,
God.
Roy was making sure everyone was holding up as he called in airstrikes to make another extraction attempt possible. But as he was doing that, another few bullets hit him in the thigh while he was fixing up the injuries of another team member. But that did not stop him. Just as the new extraction helicopter landed, Roy, one by one, carried the injured soldiers to the aircraft. He did it in multiple trips, and his second trip had him ambushed by an enemy
Bro, you
soldier
gotta be fair, bro. Come on, man. They're not being fair to my mans.
who he fought and killed with a knife, but not before sustaining a bayonet wound or two. Just as we go along, keep track of his injuries in your head. He's been shot a few times, stabbed a few times, and he's got some shrapnel in him. As he carried the last of the men to the helicopter, he saw 2 men approaching.
I feel like you just get a high or something. When you get these injuries, I'm pretty sure you get a high and you just like don't feel them.
He killed them before checking to see if all classified information and injured people were collected. And then he passed out from the pain and was dragged onto the helicopter. He managed to save 8 men after sustaining 37 bullet, shrapnel, and bayonet wounds. He was so exhausted and bloody that his eyes had fused shut. He was
Ew, bruh. You shut? How the f does that happen?
presumed dead, but as the doctor was zipping the body bag, he spat into the doctor's face to prove he was still alive. What a goddamn legend. These stories are just so unreal. In fact, when Roy received his Medal of Honor, Ronald Reagan even said that if it were a movie, I would not believe it. Which just shows how nuts life can get, especially in do or die situations. Anyway,
That's
subscribe.
so fucking crazy, yo. Bad in his face. He was like, that's my last words. And then he just died. You know what? Every video. Yeah, man, you know, if you're watching on the tube, make sure to join the Discord and watch the streams.
Subscribe to Tommy NFG.